Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Friday Coffee Chat. Glad to see you all. For those who are new to the format, here we, as the members of Kedro team, willing to present our new features and things we're working on. Today we have myself to host the stream and Ankita, who is going to tell you about the data versioning with Kedro, Delta, and Iceberg. And I'll start a short introduction to remind you about our format. Usually the stream lasts for 30 minutes, where in the first 20 minutes we're presenting our cool stuff. And then we leave 10 minutes for you to ask the questions. That's the purpose of it, to be a little bit closer to our users, to know what they think and how do they feel about the features that we release. The rules are simple. You're very welcome to ask your questions. And in case the live demo fail, just send some positive vibes to the presenter. That's mostly it. You can find us on the YouTube and LinkedIn. And on the Wiki page, you can also refer to all the previous streams and materials that we shared. And now I am giving the floor to Ankita, who is going to present the versioning with Kedro, Delta Lake, and Iceberg. Ankita, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, I am Ankita. I'm a software engineer on the Kedro team, and I wanted to talk about how you can version your data with Kedro. And there's already several ways you can do it. So you can do it with the native Kedro way, where you add versioned true to your catalog. But there's also, now we have added docs for versioning your dataset with DVC, and some more new docs for versioning your dataset, especially tabular dataset with Iceberg tables, as well as Delta tables, which are both very similar. They're open source table formats for tabular data, which offer you several features like asset transactions, data versioning. You can also roll back and time travel abilities. So let's I'll go through what the contents of this talks in a demo quickly, and let's start with Iceberg tables. So Iceberg, like I said, is an open source table format for tabular data, and to set up this for Kedro, I have to define .pyiceberg.yaml file to specify where the catalog and the warehouse for these tabular data sets will live. So you can have your catalog live on the cloud as well, but for the purpose of this demo, I have them in a temporary folder, and I'm using an SQLite database for this. So this pyiceberg.yaml file usually would live in your user root folder where pyiceberg looks for it. But you can also specify a different location using environment variables. And what we'll do is, I've created this spaceflies project, the standard spaceflies project, and I need to then create a pyiceberg dataset, because we do not have any datasets in Kedro datasets right now that support Iceberg tables. So I've created a custom dataset, and the code obviously you can find on the documentation page. It follows the standard format of like an abstract dataset, has a load function which loads a table provided with the namespace and the table name, as well as it saves a table, a pandas data frame into an Iceberg table. You can specify the mode as overwrite or append. There's also some functions like describe exists to check for the existence of the table, and inspect the table to find out like history, and snapshot ID and stuff. So I've saved this data set here in my source folder for this project. And what I'm going to do is go into my catalog. And instead of having the model input table be a Parquet data set, I'm going to use the custom data set that I created called Apache Iceberg dataset and specify the catalog name, which is default as specified in the configuration, as well as the namespace, which is also default. Um, and the table name is going to be model input table data set. So when I run the Kedro project, instead of saving the model input table data set in the primary folder, it should do it in the warehouse folder that I specified here. Okay, so I do need to create the temporary warehouse folder. As you can see, the model input table data set now is the Apache Iceberg data set that I defined. And to inspect how this looks, actually, I can use the tree command to inspect the data set. So within the warehouse, it has the data saved, the data table saved as a Parquet file, but there's also some metadata that stores like information about the schema and the versions of this data set. What I can do is if I run, assuming that the upstream data sets like the catalog or the companies or the shuttles folder has changed, the shuttles file has changed. If I run this project again to specifically model input table to create a new version of the data set, and inspect the warehouse again, there's another version of the data that exists now. To inspect the snapshot IDs and the history of the table, I can go into Kedro IPython interactive mode. And load the model input table from the catalog. And then using the inspect functionality, I can look into the history of this table. So there's like several versions that exist. The first version is when it was created without any data. The second and the third version from the first and the second runs. I can also select the snapshot ID, for example, and if I wanted to load a specific version of the data set, specify it here for the subsequent runs. That was a typo. So there's a lot more you can do with the iceberg tables than what this custom data set allows. And we've been looking to add iceberg table support to Kedro data sets. So there's an issue where you can add your um, requirements and what you expect to see with the table data set. You can always also extend this custom data set to work with Spark or different table formats, because currently it loads the table as a pandas data frame and saves a pandas data frame as an iceberg table. And now we can also talk about the delta table data set, which is actually there is currently a lot of data sets in Kedro data sets. So Kedro data sets has like good support for the delta table data set. And what I'm going to do here is have the same Spaceflies project, except I don't need to create a custom data set for this. I will add the pandas delta table data set to my requirements and use the pandas delta table data set to load the delta table as a pandas data frame and save a pandas data frame as a delta table. And you would simply need to, instead of using the Parquet data set for your model input table, specify the type of the data set as the pandas delta table data set and just simply run the Kedro project. I'm missing some requirements. I'm just going to run the first pipeline that does not require Seaborn. So this is going to create the model input table data set as the as a delta table. So if you go into the primary data folder, you can see the delta log stores the metadata for these versions as a JSON file here, and the data itself is stored as a Parquet file. I also, if I run this again, it's going to create another version for the table. So version 1 has been created just now from the latest run. And if I wanted to load a specific version of the dataset, is simply load args and version 1. So this will also allow us to run this with the new version of the table. Yeah, so that's all I have. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the comments.
Thank you, Ankita, for a nice demo. I was muted. Nice. Thank you. I was saying thank you, Ankita, for a nice demo. And that's what we meant by small issues when running the live things. But yeah, you were able to resolve things smoothly. Thanks a lot for that. And now it's a good time for you to ask your questions, or maybe you have some thoughts on what exactly do you want to see in those Apache Iceberg data set that we want to add. Otherwise, feel free to come to the ticket or to our Slack channel where we can also speak about that. Well, at the time we're waiting for the questions, we might also discuss things. What, Ankita, you think could be the minimum requirements for this Apache Iceberg data set? What's missing now, and what do we plan to add there? We have a question from Hunlu. What are the difference of this against the native Kedro versioning?
So the native Kedro data versioning, what it does is it creates new copies of your data set every time for each run with the timestamp information. And what it does is it's not very optimized in the sense it'll create more copies of your data set and then you have to manually manage it. But for tabular data, specifically Iceberg and Delta table data sets are optimized to manage your versions, so it doesn't necessarily overload your memory. But yeah, Kedro data, also Kedro native Kedro versioning works for all sorts of data sets, but Delta table and Iceberg tables are more optimized for tabular data sets.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, I was asking, what do you think is the bare minimum for this Apache Iceberg data set that we're going to add? Do we already have in mind things that it should cover?
Yeah, I mean, it should sub the bare minimum data set is the example that we have in the documentation. It does PyIceberg does support integrations with other table formats, Dask, Flink, and all of that. So IBIS, for example. So we've been actually looking for input from our users to see what they would actually like to see, instead of us specifying what it should be like.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a very good time for users to come and share their requirements. By the way, we have weird sounds at the background. That's because of the lunchtime. Okay, sounds like we don't have any questions so far. So thanks, Ankita, for presenting the new stuff. Hopefully, when we are finishing the Apache Iceberg dataset, we can get one more detailed version of this to showcase what it can. And if you have any ideas, feel free to reach out to us in Slack or go directly to the GitHub tickets. It was nice to see you all this Friday. Have a nice afternoon or evening, and see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.